Cleveland. You know, it's been a while in Cleveland. We have some serious business to talk about. Some of you might not know this, but we're very familiar with Cleveland, Akron, Youngstown. Those are all places we visited multiple times. We know many, many wonderful people. We can't leave out Cincinnati. You know, Cleveland, a lot of people talk shit about Cleveland. And I really don't know why that is. Cleveland is a transformational type of city. It really is. Even from the beginning. The Erie Canal made Cleveland the commerce and commercial Midwestern city. It created the drive for immigrants from Germany, from Poland, the great migration of African Americans, just based off of its innovation. But Cleveland, of late, in modern times, that innovation has been stifled. It's been stifled by regressive voices. Voices that, well, don't want you, a certain segment of Cleveland, to prosper in your own country. You know, this is about repairing Cleveland. If Cleveland gets repaired, the nation can start repairing. But it has to be all of Cleveland. Not just the gentrified communities. Not just the hipster and artsy, trendy neighborhoods like Fremont. And I hear they even have Owl City. Yes, you heard that right. Owl City. It's an artesian neighborhood. Ohio City. Now it's an artsy neighborhood. So it's good. There's vibrancy. There's art. But if you go to other parts of Cleveland, there's blight and decay. What generally happens in a lot of Midwestern cities, because we're going to Milwaukee next. We don't want to talk about this in the Midwest, but it's true. Even when immigrants first arrived, people segregated themselves. The Polish lived in the Polish community. The Germans lived in the German community. The African Americans lived in the African American community. And everybody was fighting for union jobs, labor, to work, to move into the middle class, to get out of extreme poverty. That's why they came to the country. That's why people moved to Cleveland. They wanted a better life. The government in Cleveland, they did a pretty good job, I have to say. But, you see, when you're swimming with headwinds up against you that are historic and have never been settled since the Civil War, it's kind of hard to prosper. General Sherman knew after the Civil War that in order to repair this nation, the African American community would have to be compensated for centuries of slavery That's why he stated that he wanted to do 40 acres in a mule. H.R. 40 has been brought up in every legislative session for the House of Representatives since the 1980s. And yet, it hasn't come to a vote in the Senate. It's passed the House, finally, but the Senate, it languishes. Where have we heard that from? Criminal justice reform, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. It just languished. They couldn't come to any type of resolution or deal. Remember, Tim Scott, the senator, Republican from South Carolina, and Cory Booker, Democrat from New Jersey. They were said to be the chief negotiators of the Justice and Policing Act for George Floyd. After we all, as a nation, watched his lynching 2 years ago, nothing happened. They said they couldn't get it done. Voting rights, they couldn't get it done. But you're starting to see a pattern here where things that the citizenry are demanding, things that the people's representatives in the House have done, for whatever reason, the Senate in its dysfunction can't get shit done. Now, you as a resident and a citizen in Cleveland, you sit there and get frustrated and say it's the government's fault. And that's partially true. The part you never, ever state that you leave out is Cleveland. You as residents, you're the government too. You see, they represent you. It's very important, Cleveland. So listen closely. There's a huge election this November. All your representatives in the House of Representatives are up for re-election. You have one United States Senator, an open seat in Ohio. State House and State Senate seats are open. This is the election that you want to participate in. You see, those people vote on the legislation that the president and vice president want. If you have people in those positions that are obstructing and don't want to do what the president wants to do, then no matter what the president wants to do, it can't get done. Elections and policy are done on the local level. The national level just carries out what the local level wants to do. That's why I'm addressing you, Cleveland. I want you to do something. You gotta get registered if you're not. If you're 18 years of age and older, you should be registered to vote. So do that soon. And do it quickly. Because you never know. It might be like Texas, where they run out of paper and say there's a shortage of voter registration forms. Amazing. When people start participating and registering, how certain politicians say now there are shortages of registration forms. As though you can't register online. Like they can't make this simplistic. You see how difficult they're trying to make governing for you, now that you're participating, now that you're aware of all the shit that's been going on and why you haven't gotten what's owed to you. You see now how they're trying to make everything tedious. Maybe it's because their ideas are no longer in season and they know it. And so they have to do all these bullshit suppression tactics because they can't win on policy anymore. You know, they have to try to harm you or cause violence. Cleveland, the first 2 days of Black History Month in 2022, and numerous historically Black colleges and universities received bomb threats. Just days ago. Now, conservative politicians will say, oh, let's not teach anything because everything is critical race theory, correct? Now, they say that the individuals thus far that they've apprehended, 6 so far to my knowledge, they were all juveniles. Now follow me on this, Cleveland, because you really gotta follow where this leads to. All 6 of the individuals that were phoning in bomb threats to historically Black colleges and universities were juveniles, meaning they were underage, and they were all boys, and they were all white boys. What's the issue here, Cleveland? The same people that tell you we don't want to teach tolerance in schools, which is being anti-racist, anti-fascist. The same people that holler and scream that you have no right to teach children tolerance. Well, you see the end result, don't you? You have juveniles phoning in bomb threats to historically Black colleges and universities. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you don't teach tolerance, you naturally develop intolerance because they're coming from homes where their parents or their caretakers are filling them with bigotry and hatred. And really, a public education is the last line of defense, where for the first time you interact with diverse groups of individuals and youth and peers your own age, and you have a parental authority that can challenge ignorance that you're learning and succumbing to at home. And that's frightening to conservatives. This is not new. This has been frightening to them since public education was introduced in this country. You can't teach anything. So these 6 juvenile boys probably don't know the history of the Birmingham church that was firebombed in the 1960s. They killed 4 little Black girls. They probably don't know that history. So they may think that it's cute or it's owning the libs. But it's already happened. And see, therein lies the problem. When you don't learn the lessons of the past, you're doomed to repeat them in the present. Cleveland, you got people outside in Orlando dressed up as Nazis, giving the Nazi salute. Those are the people, I think those are the only people left in America that strongly oppose reparations to repair this nation. They'll holler and scream. It's a giveaway. It's welfare. It's affirmative action. You know, all the usual racial shit, they'll scream. But what they won't tell you is the Paycheck Protection Program was welfare for white America. The businesses in the first round that got the Paycheck Protection Program, all of them, by and large, were owned and operated by white citizens in this country. Donald Trump gave farm aid. 96% of that money went to white farmers. Almost none of it went to black farmers. There's only 2% of farmers in this whole country that are black. Finally, Joe Biden, the current president, authorized money for the black farmers. And you know what happened? The white farmers who got money under Donald Trump got a shit ton of money under Donald Trump. They're suing, saying that that's discrimination. They know that that's bullshit. They're racist. And let's be honest about it. That's what it is. It's racism. You want to starve out other people rather than see your own citizens prosper. Now, if that's not sick, I don't know what is. We have that type of sickness, those type of crazies, batshit crazies in our country. You know, after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, his gravesite, the tombstone, racists would drive by and shoot it up. Please stop telling us that racism doesn't exist, conservatives, or that we're colorblind society. None of that is true. You wouldn't have 6 juveniles phoning dozens of historically black colleges and universities if they were colorblind. And I guarantee you, they weren't Antifa. They weren't Black Lives Matter. But they might have been affiliated with some incel, Proud Boy group, 3%er group, Oath Keeper group. Because those are the type of people that their sole recourse, their first option, their only option, their historic only option has always been violence. We know. We know. And that's exactly why, Cleveland, you deserve reparations. You withstood centuries of this violence. You deserve it. And you're going to get it. Period. It's non-debatable. I keep saying this. It's non-debatable. It was a promise by the United States government. A promise that was necessary. Known to be necessary then. Direly known to be necessary now. So you ask yourself, why isn't it being done? The South is obstructing it. You have conservative United States senators who know the history of Kentucky, who know the history of Arkansas, who know the history of Alabama, who know the history of Mississippi, who know the history of Tennessee, who know the history of Missouri, who know the history of Oklahoma. They should be the first ones in line sponsoring reparations, saying, on behalf of the state of Kentucky and all the African American people that we lynched, we're grateful. We still have a state. We still have an economy. We still have some semblance of a nation. Here's what we hope. No. They're doing what they always have done. Blocking, obstructing, being stubborn. And then those will be the people that tell you they're Christian. They're Christ-like. Now, I don't know. Firstly, how many individuals, creatures, entities whatever you want to call it. How many things did Christ torture for centuries? Okay? So that ought to tell you that these people want to hide behind a title, a label. And it's all lip service. And it's never been about action or accountability or equity. The South was made rich in this country off the backs of African American torture. And the South has never compensated the descendants for that. As I said earlier, you have a case. It's true in Cleveland. There was widespread discrimination and segregation in Cleveland. There were lynchings in Cleveland. There were race riots in Cleveland. There were slave owners in Cleveland. The banks made their money. The universities made their money. Everybody made something off of slavery in Cleveland and in Ohio. This is a fact. It has nothing to do with critical race theory. It's a fact. Now, facts are stubborn and hard to sometimes digest. That's why we don't have to worry about that. We can make new facts. The House has done its job. The House passed H.R. 40. There's over 190 something co-sponsors. Can you believe it? All Democrats. Not a single Republican co-sponsor from the South. Again, the individual states who did the most historical damage and harm and torture to African Americans don't feel like they owe shit. Make that make sense. It doesn't. Everybody knows it doesn't make sense. People just want to try to ignore it, look away. That's not going to work in 2022, America. Americans, that's not working currently. We all know why we have this problem. Whether you want to talk about it or say it or not. We all know there's been multiple studies, surveys, journalistic reporting about this situation in America. The income inequality. It was there before COVID, but now it's certainly expanding. People needed help in Cleveland before COVID. Now they're desperate and at their last wit's end for assistance. And what's the message we're getting from conservatives? Fend for yourself. No help for you. No additional child tax credit money. No paid family leave. No free community college. No free universal pre-K. You're on your own. You heard Senator Ron Johnson right next door in Wisconsin. He never thought should be the government's job to take care of the society. Now, that's a broad statement. Is it the government's job to take care of every individual in a society? No. But you represent the citizens of Wisconsin. So you would think that in your representation of the citizens of Wisconsin, you would do what's in the best interest of the vast majority of citizens in Wisconsin. They talk about inflation. You know how you drive down inflation? You pay workers a living wage. You also provide benefits. What is their plan to combat inflation? I haven't heard it. You know why? Because they don't have it. Just like Donald Trump said he had this grand plan to do health care. You know, Obama had come and reformed something that presidents since the very beginning of this country had talked about. Some form of basic universal health care for the citizenry. Barack Obama got it done as president. And Donald Trump comes along and says, we're going to get rid of what Barack Obama did. Something that the country has been trying to do forever. Because he had a great health care plan. Now, anybody remember what the Trump health care plan was? I'll give you some time to think about it. There was no plan. He wanted to do away with the Affordable Care Act and replace it with something. But he didn't have anything to replace it with. They've been playing this game with you forever now, the conservatives. All it's really about is conserving their wealth. They don't believe in sharing anything. It's driving them crazy. That there is some equity, a conversation around equity. It's driving them absolutely bonkers. Because certain people, let's face it, white supremacists, believe they should be allowed to have 100% of everything. And everybody else doesn't belong. You shouldn't have anything. They should have everything. How else would you look at it? There was a study that came out and said that African Americans in this country, America, only have 10% of the entire wealth of white American citizens in this country. And yet, non-stop, you hear conservatives, you need to do away with this, you need to do away with that. They want you to starve out. You see what they're doing to the farmers. They know that that's hurting the black farmers, the white farmers that are doing that in that lawsuit. You know exactly what you're doing. You're being white supremacists. I don't care if you say you're not. You are. Actions speak louder than words. That's the quintessential thing that Americans never learned. You can say you're not a racist, but your actions dictate that you most certainly are. And you know what they hate also? Accountability. Being called out for it. Oh no, we should be allowed to do whatever we want. We can phone in bomb threats. We can assault the nation's capital. We can spread feces on the wall. We can set up gallows and bring in Confederate flags. Just let us do what we want to do. And don't call us out on it. And don't hold us accountable. We're going to talk about Ottawa too. And what they're planning in Canada. And here too. Very soon. This is white supremacy. We know what it is. It's crystal clear and evident. And the thing of it is, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's just simply not. 2022 is different than 1965 and 1968. It just is. And certain crazy nuts, you know, like the juveniles, who are the most intolerant individuals, probably, on this planet. Anger, rage, bigotry, hatred. You gotta think about that. How much hatred must you have for a particular group to phone in bomb threats, to talk about killing other kids and youth? You saw it in Ethan Crumlin, who went to that school, to high school in Michigan. That's what they are. That's who they are. They don't want to acknowledge it. They want to try to hide it and obfuscate it from you. They can't anymore. The gig is up. They've been exposed. The emperor and empress have no clothes. You see them bare for who they are. You know, people say they change and they're sorry. But have they ever given a public acknowledgement in the United States of America that slavery was an evil and they're sorry? Have they ever compensated you for it? Remember, actions speak louder than words. This is not about shaming or blaming. It's about fixing the problem that we all know is an issue. It's about repairing the nation. In Cleveland, you know it, I know it, they know it. The only way to repair this nation is reparations. It's been done in the House. The Senate needs to get it done. The President and Vice President say they're immediately for it. So you know who the holder is. You know who to put the elbow grease to. Cleveland, you gotta get registered to vote. You got great candidates who are running. Ask them, demand that they do this for you because you need it and you were promised it. Let's make it happen. Thank you, Clifford.